Yeah, you can do that. Make sure you're muted. Is yours on? Sorry, you're on video.
Krista, this is Alex. How are you? I can't hear you.
Sorry, sorry, Alex, I was muted. I'm good.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on operator error on my end, which can happen.
My fault.
So do you have the ability to see who's joined and see if we have a quorum?
Let me run through. I see Paul Isaac. I see Matt Dahl from Midville. Yep. I see Brenda Moore from Murray.
Okay, buddy, thank you.
I see Alex, Jason Roberts from Brigham, Brent Hansen from Centerville. I see one that's just a phone number, so I'm not sure who that is. 801-368.
That's me. That's me, Krista. Aaron.
Okay. You can't just say that's me, Aaron. Okay, so then we've got those that are not. So what I don't see anyone from Orem yet, which would be Jamie Davidson. I don't see anyone from Linden, which would be Mayor Acherson, or anyone from Payson, which would either be Brett Christensen or Mark Sorensen. For staff, Roger's here. I'm here, Krista. I see we have Aaron, who was the phone number. We have Laurie Harvey. We have Kim McKinley. I do not see Josh yet. Outside of staff, we have Brad Patterson with Gilmore Bell. We have Summer Palmer. I believe she's with Centerville City.
She's with Clearfield.
Clearfield, sorry. And Summer, what is your title?
I'm the assistant city manager.
Okay, thank you.
Is Laura on yet?
Laurie?
Laura Lewis?
I do not see Laura Lewis yet.
Okay.
I believe that's all that I have on right now.
We probably have a quorum, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Let me, looks like Josh is just trying to join now. Josh, how are you?
Doing very well. Thanks, Alex.
There's Josh.
Good. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started, seeing we have a quorum. Hopefully, Jamie from Orem will be able to join us, and Mayor Aitchison from Linden, and perhaps Mark from Payson. Those appear to be the only board members that are represented currently. Summer, it's nice to have you with us today, representing Clearfield City. We hope you've been well.
We have.
Good. It's good to have you. We look forward to any comments you may have a little bit later as we talk about the Clearfield agreement. So
Thanks for letting me join.
You bet. Thanks to everybody else as well for joining. Hope you're doing well. Your families are doing well and safe, given all the virus issues and all the other craziness that's happening in the world. We have a set of minutes from the 10th of February.
Hey, Alex,
Yes.
Can I just jump in just real quick? We're trying to get the link to the live stream posted to make sure we're compliant with everything.
Okay.
I just want to wait till that's publicly posted before we start any business. We're just going to confirm that. We're almost there. The live stream's
Okay.
active. We just got to make sure it's posted. So I don't know, we're going to talk about the weather, I think, for a couple minutes.
Roger, are you recording
Snowed in
this?
Lehigh yesterday.
Roger, are you recording this on Zoom as well? Or will I just be able to refer to the YouTube link?
It's being recorded on YouTube.
Okay, that'll be fine.
We'll have it in both places.
Okay. Okay, it looks like Laura Lewis and Jamie Davidson joined us.
Okay. All right, we're just confirming on that link.
Good morning, Jamie and Laura.
We have
Morning.
Nate. What is Nate's last name?
Robertson.
Robertson. And are you with
I'm with Laura at Lewis Young.
Laura? Okay.
Yep.
Roger, we're still waiting for the streaming.
Yeah.
That's okay. I wondered if you were looking at you and Josh, you guys have a new grooming policy there at the city or at the agency?
Yeah, it's growing a beard. There's been a lot of that going around. People aren't going into the office, growing
Yeah.
out beards.
A little scruffy.
Apologize. It's to confirm.
She said she was working on it. I just got a comment that she's working on the posting right now.
We were trying to get it to, we had scheduled it on YouTube, and we're trying to get it to associate the meeting in Zoom to that meeting, but it created a new link. There wasn't a place to put in the YouTube one that was already created, so we're having to update it to make sure we've got the right one posted. I think Zoom keeps updating their stuff, to make it better, but then it changes all the instructions for how to do things.
So she's saying it should be posted, but we might want to, yep, it's posted. We're ready to go.
Okay.
So,
There we go.
okay, very good. Well, thank you again. Welcome everybody this morning for taking time out of your schedules to meet this morning. We've got some important subjects to discuss and look forward to that discussion. So we have a set of minutes from the February 10th, 2020 meeting. Are there any additions or deletions to those minutes? If not, I would be happy to entertain a motion.
So moved, Alan.
Okay.
Second.
Was that Paul a second?
Yeah.
So
Are
Jason,
we, by the way, are we all unmuted, sir? Are we, is somebody controlling the mute, or do we do that ourselves?
I think you can do it yourselves. I'm not trying to control it.
Roger can
Okay.
control it as well.
Do it yourself unless I hear that it's a problem, and then I might mute you.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion from Jason, a second from Paul in favor of approving the minutes. Let's just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's a little bit hard to tell, but did anybody say no? Okay, appears to be unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is one of those important pieces of business. And I should mention for some of those board members that joined just a little bit late, we have Summer Palmer. Summer is the Assistant City Manager for Clearfield City. She's on with us, and we appreciate her and JJ and the good work they do at Clearfield City. But she's on today representing Clearfield City as in terms of this agreement, the potential agreement between Clearfield City and UIA for the build out of their community. So we have a resolution before us that provides for an execution of a contract between Clearfield City and UIA. And Roger and the staff have met several times with representatives from Clearfield City, both staff and elected officials, and all the reports I've had are that the discussions have been very, very positive, very supportive, very enthusiastic, and there's a lot of excitement in the city, as there should be. So I think they'll be a great member. But Roger, do you want to give more detail or add more discussion around that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we go into we start with a feasibility study for these cities. So we did a survey. The results came back very strong. Some of the good other information about the city is there's a very strong business environment there. We have the Freeport Center and a lot of other areas, and we actually have quite a few businesses already. We've had a lot of requests from schools over the years and other things. So it's actually a very good city. Generally, there's a good mix of residential and business and governmental and other things there. And so as we modeled this out, put in construction costs, possible connections, and all of that, it actually came back very favorable. So with that, we went back and presented to the city. They were very supportive, obviously very interested in the service. Things have only gotten more so with the coronavirus across the board. We see increased demand everywhere. But even before that, there was very strong support from the city. From our perspective, it'd be a very good build, simple build. We already have fiber in the city to piggyback off of. Construction environment's good. And then we kind of check it as well. Does this affect Utopia or UIA in our resources, in our other projects, to make sure we don't slip on our schedule for reasons related to doing another city project. I mean, sometimes we have individual footprints that move around because of individual obstacles, but from a capacity perspective, we try to make sure that we're not negatively impacting UIA with these other city projects. And it looks like we're good. So we've got a schedule for this project. It shouldn't adversely affect us, but something we can take on and do well. And again, very appreciative of the city. I'd love to hear Summer's thoughts on what it's like from the city's perspective. But from my perspective, it looks like a great partnership and a good opportunity for us.
So Roger, can you, before we hear from Summer, can you speak to the terms of the contract? Are they, maybe you mentioned this and I missed it, but are they essentially similar to what we've done recently with other cities, with West Point, maybe in particular?
Yeah, so the structure of this, and correct me if I get this wrong for anybody, is basically where we have a bond that covers the cost of building out the city, as well as the installations to the customers needed for it to break even financially. The revenues from the customers, the infrastructure revenue counts towards meeting that obligation. So the city has a guarantee up to the financed amount, and so the revenues from the residential subscribers count towards that. Revenues from the city's own services that they purchase count towards that, and a portion of the business revenues count towards that. It doesn't go to the city, it just goes to covering the debt obligation. And then we build it out, and we have transport revenue in there for all those customers that covers all of our costs, separate from the debt cost. And so really it's a project that's guaranteed by the city, but we have skin in the game. We want this thing to go well. It's not, we have financial risk, but we have, we don't want any of these projects to not go well, and have reason to want to continue to do these. And so we're very invested in it from a mentality perspective, but the financial backstop is on the city. So it really is the same structure that we did for West Point, and Morgan was very similar. I'd say there's slight differences with Morgan, but it's really copy and pasted from West Point.
Is what
Okay,
percent?
I got a yes, Josh.
Okay. Roger, what's the ratio of overhead versus underground build? Is it mostly underground there?
There are some sections with aerial, but most is still planned to be underground. What helps us mostly on the build cost is the density is very good. So there's not a lot of distance between homes. There's not a lot of homes off by themselves. There's a lot of apartment complexes and things like that, and those are especially good because usually it's just one connection from our perspective, but it's shared and distributed on the facility to all the units there. We treat them like a business connection, so it's favorable from a business or from a build perspective. I wish all cities cost the same to build that Clearfield does.
A question.
Yes, Laura.
Yep.
So Roger, how are the builds in those other cities coming along, if you wouldn't mind speaking to that?
So as far as the add-on city projects, meaning non-Utopia or UIA member cities, the first one was Woodland Hills. That one's done and has about a 70% take rate. So that one went phenomenally well. The next one was Morgan City. Morgan City has been completed. It has over 30%, I think, is where we just passed 30% take rate there. It's still growing very fast. We've only had about half the city available for a couple of months. The first half was sooner than that. But so we usually expect to, about a year to 2 years to get the take rate we want. We're way ahead of schedule in Morgan City. West Point, we just barely in the last week to 2 weeks launched the first neighborhoods. So we don't really have a metric of success on take rate. We just know we've got a lot of people interested. A lot of signups are coming in right now, but it's a little too early to gauge that as, hey, we've cleared the watermark or the benchmark for where we want to be financially on it. But we still have a lot of time. So Morgan City is probably the best indicator of how these add-on city projects have gone. It's very similar in structure to this. It's way ahead of where it needs to be. And those are the member city projects. Then the non-member city projects. For the member city projects where we have Layton was a city-backed incremental finish of the city. That one we cleared the take rate and the revenue targets already, and that doesn't hit till July. So that one is a success. That was a $23 million project, and it's covering all of its revenue targets for the debts. Payson is another one. We did a city-specific backstop. We're still a little too early on that one, but we're trending well. We still have a lot of time for the take rates. The take rates are all doing very, very well in other places. Let's see, did the build of these add-on city projects come under the not-to-exceed construction amounts? So Woodland Hills did go over a little bit. So we had some costs there. The Layton project came in under. The Morgan City project went over a little bit. I think we had a crossing that didn't go well under the freeway, so there was a little bit of cost there. So unfortunately, we did go over a little bit on a couple of them, under on one that was a lot under than made up more than enough on all the others. But so we watch that as we do each of these projects. We don't necessarily want to put too much buffer in them, but we want to have enough buffer. We do have buffer in the Clearfields project. It's about an 8%, if I remember right. But, it's about $1 million of buffer we have in that project to cover any cost overruns. So, but that's built into the bond amount.
And if you don't use all of that money, do you just connect more, save it up, if you will, and connect more homes?
Yeah, that gives us more ability to do installations and growth and expansion over time. I mean, these are cities, we expect that to happen anyways, where they'll add new homes, new developments, so that money's there for that. You know, our obligation to the city, you know, the minimum obligation is to build it out and connect so many customers. But certainly if we come in under budget, we like to use that money to continue to expand it out and grow. We would plan to do that growth anyways. The return on investment is still good from UIA's perspective, but it's nice to have the money available for it.
Thank you.
So a question popped up here from Jamie. If the projects were over, where did the money come from to cover the overages? So UIA has covered those overages. As we look at them from a financial perspective, we get more customers than that baseline. As we get more customers, then we get more revenue. So it's a relatively small portion of the project size overall. But yeah, it is true that UIA would cover that cost overrun. We look at them and we say, hey, this is pretty good. We still get that money back fairly quickly because we do get transport revenue for every customer, and then for any additional customers above that minimum break even, as soon as we exceed that. If we exceed that, we always expect to or hope to, but it's not built into that initial project, then there's revenue to get paid back on that. So the goal would be to go in there and this thing doesn't cost UIA any money at all. In a worst case scenario where we do go over a little bit, then there would be some period of you know, maybe we're 6 months or a year before that project breaks even from UIA's perspective. That's a worst case scenario though. It's something we don't like to have happen.
Roger, in both of those cases that you spoke of, where they've had a little bit of overruns, Woodland Hills and Morgan, if I recall, did it have to do with the accuracy of the estimate, the construction estimate in a dynamic environment, or was it more like what you described in Morgan, where you ended up with a crossing that gave you fits, or is it kind of a one-off kind of thing like that?
Morgan City was more of a one-off. That one, if it wasn't for that single crossing that was just especially bad across the freeway, there was several attempts to try to cross that all failed. I don't know no one really knows exactly what's under that freeway, but it seemed like it may have been solid rock or something like that. Other than that one crossing, the project was fine. And that was, I can't remember what that cost. It was like $150,000 or something like that. It was an expensive crossing. And then Woodland Hills was a little different. That one, we don't know exactly. We had a little bit of turnover. Jamie Brotherton had done the design and estimate, and then he retired, and we didn't have all of the details and design of what went into the initial estimate. And we went out to build that. It came in generally, so it wasn't like there's one specific thing. I think it was a combination of just the soil conditions. That was a very different project than we'd typically done. The houses were very, very far apart from each other. And then with rock conditions, it just kind of added a little bit more than we had expected. Unfortunately, that was one we had put some buffer in and still went over. I think we could attribute that one a little bit to, it was very different from a build perspective than any of our other projects. Clearfield is nice because it's a lot more typical conditions than what we would see, if not a little bit more favorable than what our average is. So the likelihood of missing on that one is lower, and we actually have a little bit higher buffer than we put into any of the projects before. Just, to be honest, it was the pricing and everything and the estimates came in so good because of the density and the build conditions and everything there. There's a little bit more room for buffer. So it gives a little more headroom to continue to grow. They have a lot of development planned in the city, so it'll be good to have that there to cover. Plus, we think we'll do a lot better than the initial take rate that we planned.
Are there any other questions of Roger from any of the board members? Okay, yeah, thank you for those questions. Those have been good discussion. Summer, do you have any thing you'd like to say on behalf of Clearfield City? Maybe about what you perceive to be the interest and enthusiasm there, both in the community and with your maybe governing body in particular?
Yeah, thanks for letting me be part of your board meeting. We are all really excited about the possibility of having Utopia in our city from our residents who are asking about it on a regular basis, especially since their neighboring cities have it. Nobody wants their neighbor to have something that they can't have. So, so that's exciting to them. We have, as Roger said, a number of developments that are coming in, and our development partners are asking about fiber options. And so we believe that it's part of what's enticing to have them come into the city, is the possibility that we will have Utopia there for them. And then our council is really excited about it, and for the most part has been pushing this for, gosh, well over a year now. Even some of our most conservative council members who we thought we may have a little bit of a rub with as we introduced the concept and the contracts to them, they are completely on board, and almost to our surprise, are as excited as anyone to have Utopia in their city. So overwhelming support, and we're excited to get it moving.
Thank you, Summer. What is the schedule for adoption on the city's end of a contract?
I think we've got meetings every 2 weeks, and so I think have this on 3 weeks from now, or could possibly have it on 3 weeks from now. We've already taken this to work session, and they've already looked at the contract. So so we'll be able to wrap things up quickly.
Okay.
Actually, didn't we already do this?
I thought we had
I was just gonna
we already
say
had a vote on this.
I thought.
there's some stuff going on.
March 10th was the day.
We pushed our last policy session. I apologize, but we actually adopted the policy session prior to everything blowing up. So we're good.
Okay. Very, very good.
Sorry to scare Roger and Josh, who were there. Going.
And it was a unanimous vote too, and they were very supportive of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you, Summer. Any other questions regarding this item from any of the board members? Laura, do you have any concerns, or Brad, or friends, any comments?
Oh, none whatsoever. We have modeled the debt service numbers around the dollar amount that was adopted in the service agreement. We have a little bit of headroom. As Summer said, there's a lot going on. That's impacting the market. It's quite volatile. But I think we've got enough headroom to make it happen.
Okay. Well, very good. This is exciting. So if there's no further discussion, I'm happy to entertain a motion to approve resolution 20-04, providing for the execution of a service contract between Clearfield City and UIA.
Alex, I'll make that motion as presented.
I have a motion from Jason. Thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
I second. This is Paul.
Paul, thank you. Second from Paul. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's attempt to do a roll call. Jamie?
Yes.
Thank you, Jamie. Brenda?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes.
Brant?
Yes.
Thank you, Brant. Jason?
Yes.
And Matt?
And
Yes.
Okay, Matt?
and Alex, we had Mayor Acerson and Mark Sorensen join us as well.
Okay. Welcome. Mayor Acerson, how would you vote?
That's a yes.
Thank you. And Mark? Mark, are you on? Good. Mark from Payson? Okay, Leighton's and I as well.
If I don't know if possible, maybe we could have him put his vote in the chat or something if he's having trouble with his mic.
There was nothing like.
Yeah, maybe we certainly have sufficient for the
Yes, yeah.
for approval, and we'll just move forward. And then if he wants to add his vote, we can do that. If that's okay with Josh. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Oh, he just put in the comments yes for Mark, so it looks like he's able to comment. So
Okay,
it's in the
very
chat,
good.
but there's a yes from him.
That was unanimous. Thank you. Again, congratulations, Summer. We look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate all your support.
You bet. The next item is a consideration of a resolution authorizing the sale of not more than 15 million in principal amount for this Clearfield City project. So Roger, you want to speak to that?
Yep. So make sure I'm not muted here. So yeah, obviously this is just the debt issuance for the Clearfield City project. Kind of discuss the structure of this as it is. It has a couple of years of capitalized interest in there, so we have time to build the network, market it, get the revenues growing. On this one, we've got a little bit of a head start in the sense that we have the fiber in the city already. We've already been working with the city to do preliminary work on hut locations and other things that don't cost the money, but get us time in the project so we can make sure this thing is successful. So it looks good. Do we want to have Laura maybe talk to the bond parameters and what that looks like?
Sure.
So we have
that'd be great.
Financial advisor in there.
So as all of you know that have worked with me, when we set parameters, I try to leave an adequate amount of cushion in there should something run amiss and we need a little bit of headroom. With the markets moving like they have, we have capitalized interest built in to these numbers as we have the other numbers. And if interest rates go up, then I need to find a little bit more capitalized interest. So we have headroom built in there. At the current time, if we had no original issue premium, the par amount of the bonds would be about 13.8 million. When we last ran these numbers, we expected to have about 1.9 million in capitalized interest. So at the moment, the par amount would be about 11,940,000. So the headroom of 15 million makes some, really worst case assumptions. It assumes that we don't get any original issue premium. It assumes that interest rates go up and I have to fund more capitalized interest. But we expect that the market will come back. The tough thing is knowing when. And as soon as anyone can tell me when they'll clear the runway and we can all go back to work, then I think the market will settle down a few weeks after that. The current numbers show a debt service of about 715,000, give or take. The service agreement, I believe, has a 737,000 and change as the maximum amount that Clearfield has pledged. So we do have a little bit of headroom there if needed from a market perspective. With that, let me jump to the calendar here on my other computer. The expectation is that we will, move ahead and meet with the rating agencies toward the end of this month. I expect that will likely need to be conducted much like this meeting. I don't think they'll be traveling yet. And we'll tee us up to price around the first part of June and close by June 23rd. And then what else? Anything else? The parameters resolution. So the parameters are set at $15 million maximum par amount, 5.5% maximum interest rate, and not more than 30 years. It has set in terms of who can give us final approval as the designated officers. It has any two of the chair of the board, the vice chair of the board, the chief executive officer, and the secretary treasurer. Any two of those can make the final approval as long as we are within the parameters. And with that, Brad, is there anything else that I have missed?
No, Laura, you've captured everything just fine.
So with that, any questions?
I would just point out, we want to do better than that when we actually close. Less money, less interest rate, less term, but that just gives us some headroom.
Thank you, Roger. I should have asked in the last discussion, but what do you anticipate the build out timeline would be for Clearfield to get it completed?
I think we have the first book coming on. It's about a year out in our schedule, and after about 2 months. That's a conservative schedule, so that finishes the build out closer to about 2 years out, a little short of that, I guess. We would start upon approval of the contract, and then we have a couple of months before the financing actually closes. So where we have the 2-year capitalized interest period in there, that gives us 2 years and change before the obligations hit. So kind of where we're at. We hope to do a lot better than that, but that's what our official schedule looks like.
Very good. Any other questions from the board to Roger or Laura or Brad? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we'll be happy to entertain a motion on this resolution as well, resolution 20-05.
Alex, I move we approve resolution 20-05 for the issuance and sale of the bonds for the project we've been discussing as presented.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
You guys are earning your money today, Jason and Paul. Very good. We have a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote again. Jamie?
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Brand,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Mayor Acerson,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and Leighton is a yes as well. Appears to be unanimous. Did I miss anybody?
No,
Okay.
you're good. You're good.
Very good, thank you. Oh, the other thing, I may have made a mistake there. We need to set a date for a public hearing on that item.
It's contained,
Josh?
it's contained in the resolution itself.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you. Next item is considering approval of a resolution adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2021 for UIA and also setting the time and place for public hearing. So Lori, I believe you're going to make that presentation.
Yes. How do I?
I just muted us here. Oh.
I love talking about budgets, but I'm gonna leave if you guys are okay with that.
We're very disappointed, Summer. You wouldn't want to stay.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I have to go talk about my own, so.
Okay, we'll give our best to JJ. Tell him congratulations. Thank you.
By the way, I think that Paul Isaac is the winner for background for this call.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I love those mobiles out there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think, it doesn't even look like we're shut down here at all. Everything's pretty busy.
That's good news.
So Roger, we're working, trying to, okay.
It wasn't coming up from Larry's share, so I'm just gonna share it from mine. So hopefully you can all see the packet here. And then I've got, let me switch over here though. Give me the right window here. Is that the right one?
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Can everyone hear me?
I heard you.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
The
Tentative budget is just that. It's a tentative budget. We're required to adopt the tentative budget before the first regularly scheduled meeting in May. This would be that meeting. The final budget will be posted and adopted at the June board meeting. Is it echoing still?
I just muted yours so that it's going into the phone.
Is that better?
Yes. Can you start over from the beginning again, Laurie?
Yes.
Okay.
This budget is a tentative budget. We are required to adopt a tentative budget each year before the first regularly scheduled board meeting in May. And since we don't have a May board meeting, this would be that meeting. The tentative budget is a starting point. So we still have some work to do on our end. We have some requests, especially on the Utopia side, that we still need to vet and consider. The UIA budget is a little less complicated because our operating budget is in Utopia.
UIA. The columns across the top, we show the 2019 actuals, the 2020 final amended budget, the year-to-date as of March 31st, 2020, projected balance as of the end of this current fiscal year, and the percentage of the fiscal year 2020 budget. And then we have a column called the base budget. For the purposes of this tentative budget, the base budget assumes the revenue with the current growth that we are experiencing. So this is actually the revenue that we expect to receive in fiscal year 21. You can see the total revenue anticipated is $21.8 million. That is 24% above where we project to end the year in 2020. That was $17.7 million. This budget looks a little bit different. We've spent quite a bit of time working on our chart of accounts and our general ledger in order to segregate the different components of revenue. So you can see for 2021, we have lines for transport, UIA residential, business, revenue pledged to city-specific bonds, fiber lease revenue, that would be the $30. Fiber lease revenue pledged to city-specific bonds, and then bandwidth NNI charges. So from this point going forward, it'll be easier to identify and track the different components of our revenue. Well, overall, with the base budget and with the estimates of revenue based on the current rate of growth, we expect growth to be about 24% higher in fiscal year 2021. On the expenditure side for UIA, the professional services line, that is the money that we pay to the cities for managing our queue payments, billing the customers and remitting that to us each month. We have started billing a substantial, or charging a substantial portion of the advertising and marketing to UIA, since so much of the growth is on the UIA side. We believe we'll finish out the year, fiscal year 2020, at about $672,000. In this base budget, I've estimated $700,000. Again, that number may be refined between now and June when the final budget is adopted. About $160,000 in bank service charges. And then these two large numbers are the transfers from UIA to support Utopia. The UIA service contract agreement is about $3.3 million for 2021. That's based on the number of connections we will see in fiscal year 2021. It's quite a bit more than the service contract agreement of $2.3 million that we project for the end of 2020. I believe all of you are familiar with that service contract. There is revenue that comes over from UIA for the network operating center to manage the network for provisioning, and that is a flat fee per new connection. Field service maintenance, and that is based on the number of addresses passed. Also, a per unit charge for each of the huts and shelters that are out in the field. And this $3.3 million is based on what we project for 2021 at the same rates that we applied in fiscal year 2020. So another exercise that we still need to go through is the determination of whether or not those fees from UIA to Utopia need to increase the fee per unit. As costs go up at Utopia, the per unit fee, I believe it's $6.50 for each connection per month for the network operating center. Based on any increases we have in those expenditures at Utopia, that fee may go up, or it may be okay right where it is. The management fee to Utopia, I've increased that by about 3%. It was 1.8 sorry, it was 2.2 million for fiscal year 2020. We estimated it'll be about 2.3 million for fiscal year 2021. Total expenditures of 6,400,000 leaves an operating profit of 15,392,900. Then when you jump to the next page, Roger, if you can go to page 2, thank you. Financing, investment, and capital. Debt service for fiscal year 21 is almost $11 million. 1.7 million of that will come from CAP-I funds that are currently held by the trustee. The scheduled repayment of the operating expense notes payable to the city is 1.12 million. We anticipate about $1 million in revenue from interest on restricted funds. Those are typically it's interest on the money that is sitting in the bond construction accounts. Contribution from bond construction funds. We budgeted about 40 million in network expansion for 2020. We do have some of that money remaining to take us into fiscal year 2021. That's probably a little over 10 million. So we plan on finishing the expenditure of those bond funds in 2021. We have not budgeted for proceeds from debt issuance. As we spoke earlier about the Clearfield bond, we have not budgeted the revenue yet for the proceeds from debt issuance of that bond, and we anticipate that we will be doing a general UIA bond probably in the late spring, early summer of fiscal year 2021 to finish out the build of the network. I realize this is the UIA board, but I did send out some information on the positions that are requested at Utopia. There has been a lot of growth at Utopia. These positions, we have not we haven't had the conversations with the department directors at this point to determine which of these positions will be funded. It looks like with the transfer from UIA over to Utopia from the service contract, there will be adequate money to fund those positions that are needed. So not necessarily all of the 11 positions, but we do have a little bit of headroom at Utopia.
I think we lost Lori's audio.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose her audio? Just using my audio. So I don't know if you want to repeat that last part. How long have you not had audio from her?
Just the last few sentences. She was talking about the personnel positions. There should be adequate money to fund those.
Yes, it sounds like you got it. It looks like there will be adequate funds available in Utopia to fund the positions that we determine are needed. With the growth, we have field service techs, NOC operators, customer service representatives, and locators who, as the system grows and the connections grow, the work for each of those departments merits the increase in many of those situations of another employee. We still have some analysis to do to determine which of the 11 positions are indeed needed and the timing of those.
Just for some context, there's things that put strains on our resources. We don't want to just throw more people in expense at the organization as we grow. So we look at each one of these, and these aren't all approved. This is all in consideration, so kind of scrutinize these. We'll likely need most of them. But from a size of operations perspective, we've added a lot of network. We've grown quite a bit. If you think back, when Utopia started, it took us 6 or 7 years or more from the beginning of Utopia to get to the first 10,000 customers. Now we're at 27,000 customers. Last month, we signed up about 1,100 new signups just in 1 month, which is crazy. We expect that to go down. That's kind of a coronavirus related bump, but even before that came, we were in the 500 to 600, actually 600 to 700 range that month before. We don't expect it to slow down a lot. I mean, it may go back down to the 600 to 700 range, which was record-setting pace. A lot of customers coming on. Where we need resources are two things. One of them is to just manage the size of the network that we have. Well, now we have 27,000 customers compared to where we've been in the past. But the other thing that's a strain on our resources is the rate of growth, and the rate of growth is also pushing us a little bit. That's, we're building and making new neighborhoods and new areas available faster than we have. So, we've looked at these and we think this is pretty conservative. And not all of these are new costs. When we look at that, the biggest increase we've had over the last couple of years, you say, wow, we're at 73, and that's up from where we were a couple of years ago at 55 or so. Well, 11 of those and maybe 12 after this are in locating. Well, the locating was something we were just paying a third party for. We've just gone from paying a third party to in-housing that. And so it's not a new cost of 11 new employees. It's moving from one or the other. What's that? They can't see the spreadsheet.
Yeah, or it doesn't show up online.
Oh, sorry, the screen sharing's not quite showing you exactly what I want to show. Let me try this.
Far left, right there.
Okay, so that one should have a green border around this now, so it should be the right one.
Yeah,
This has the positions. So fiscal year 2020, we had 73 positions in there, but the biggest growth in that into that year was the locating, in-housing that. So we've grown the organization by number of people, but by cost of services, it's actually been what I feel is very conservative, and we overwork our people pretty well here, but they put up with it. They're a great team. But we'll need to do some growth. I mean, we can't just add 10,000 customers and not expect some additional technicians and engineering resources and things like that. So that we have some of that represented here. We've also done a lot more in-housing of inventory and warehousing, and so that we're just asking for going from 1 to 2, because we do have 2 facilities now. And we save money by doing that in-house as well. So anyways, these aren't all approved. These are still positions we're working on internally to make sure they're justified, either from we've got to do it just from a resource perspective, or in some cases they're cost savings, just moving from one place external maybe to internal, or improving something that we could be doing. So that's the preliminary budget, and then the staffing at Utopia, but I know we're talking UIA here, but kind of helps to understand, I think, what's going on between the two organizations.
One thing I wanted to mention, we talked about the rapid growth. System addresses passed will have increased by 40% between July 2019 and June 2021. So that's over a 2-year period. That's looking at the beginning of this current fiscal year and where we anticipate being by the end of 2021. System connections will have increased by 48% in that same time period, from July 2019 to June 2020. Substantial.
Thank you, Laurie.
Good problem to
have. Roger, a couple of questions, and then there may be some from the board as well, but with the 1,100, 1,200 customers that we took on last month, I think you referenced, I would assume that the majority of the new ones coming on, or that increase, is driven by residential connections because of the teleworking and so forth. Is that accurate, or did we see a commensurate jump in business?
Yeah, that's accurate. Let's see, sorry. make sure I get some feedback here. So yeah, most of the growth has been residential. That's where most of the build has been, and most of the focus has been. Business, we have augmented that team a little bit. We've done some builds to support business. The revenue has grown, but it's not to the exponential growth that we've seen on the residential side. And really the difference is that business is a competitive, very competitive market. There are other options for fiber, a lot of options and a lot of competition. I think we still offer, great service and compete well in that space, but there really are no other options in the residential space that are anywhere near what we offer. So as we expand in an area, or even just the trend of consumer habits, that all drives a lot of growth in the residential. Whereas on the business, the main reason to switch to Utopia over someone else is a better price, maybe a slightly, we hope it's better service, but the other providers are relatively better when it comes to business.
Okay, and another question, I think Laurie mentioned this, or touched on it, but the revenue projections for next year are very, very positive, very aggressive, which is good. And maybe they're actually conservative relative to what you think they would be, but they're very positive. I assume that most of the projections are based not on our last month's experience and with any anticipation that rate of growth is going to continue, but rather what's happened for the last 12 months or something like that.
That's right. And actually the revenue projections, I would say, are quite conservative.
Okay.
Yeah, so the forecasts are based on what happened before coronavirus, not during.
Right.
And even then, they're actually conservative by the dollars and the numbers. They look aggressive because over the history of Utopia, they are aggressive. But we were, if you look at the tail end of last year and how things have been growing over 6 months or even that year, it is actually pretty conservative what we've modeled out.
Yeah, and I used the wrong, and I recognize that I used the wrong word when I said aggressive. They're very positive, but I know typically you estimate conservatively. Laurie does the same, so that's good.
Yeah, they do look aggressive. When you look at them, they're significant changes, but they're fairly conservative for purposes of this budget.
And then, Roger, one final question, at least for me, is has the experiment with the conversion to the locating function in-house to this point, I know we're early into that, has that borne out the way that you had anticipated? It appears it's going to be very positive, both in terms of efficiency and responsiveness as well as cost, or any concerns there?
Yeah, a lot of the work was being missed previously, and we were paying a premium on it. This first year, I don't think we're really expecting to save a lot of money because we had to make some capital spend on equipment and trucks and things. It'll be this next year when we say, well, now all we have are the staffing expenses, and that would be where we experience the savings. It looks good. The team is doing a great job. I think the quality of the work is far better than we were getting. The number of outages and problems related to hits, some contractor goes out there digging, they call in a blue staking request. We'd have it where our stuff wouldn't get marked and it'd get hit, and we'd have an outage. And even though that third party would be liable, we could charge them for the repair, it affected the reliability of our system. We potentially lose customers, have to issue out credits, things like that. Those incidents have gone down. As a result, I don't think we've had damage-related things because of non-located facility. So there's that benefit. So I think there's been a good net benefit, but I also think there's a financial benefit as we look forward past this. It's just that initial piece had the tools and the equipment that we had to buy in there as well. And mostly it's vehicles. You'll see a bunch of RAV4s driving around. Those are the locators. Try to be efficient, get good gas mileage.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Laura. Board members, do any of you have any questions regarding?
I have a question, if I could ask.
Thank you, Mayor.
the growth that we've experienced over the last little bit, is that across the system or is that specific to maybe a few cities? Can you weigh in on that?
So yeah, it's been both. You know, we haven't had take rate decrease anywhere. So every city across the board has added customers. Obviously, we see more in areas where we're building. So, you know, Layton has seen the most growth because we've done the most construction because we had a recent Layton specific project. So that's where our biggest spike is. But, you know, we had some more Orem spike recently because we had some new footprints finished up in Orem. And so I would say overall, there's a really good growth. Like if we just stopped growing new areas, we'd still see subscriber growth, and even better than we've had in the past ever. And then you layer on top of that we happen to be building out new footprints faster than we have. That's what's really causing us to go from 100 to 200 a month to this 500 to 600 a month. It's really both efforts.
Roger, do you want to talk about, I think we saw a huge spike because of the Vivint Wireless shutting down as well, that I don't think you've talked about.
Yeah, that was another benefit that's come in recently. It doesn't affect all of our cities, but it does affect probably your city in Linden, Mary Acerson, and Orem. We saw a couple different pockets where, because Vivint Wireless is shutting down, people are looking, obviously need another option. So it's been good and bad. You know, we provide backhaul services to various wireless providers, and that's a source of revenue for us. So we see growth on the residential side. We'll see a little bit of a hit on the business side, but that's okay. Overall, we'll net positive.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you. So seeing none, I'll be happy to entertain a motion to adopt the tentative budget for fiscal year 2021 for UIA, and as part of that, setting the time and place for the public hearing regarding the budget, which is proposed as June 8th, 2020.
So moved, Mary Acerson.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. A motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, was that you, Brenda, first?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's do a roll call again. Jamie? Jamie?
Oh, we may have lost Jamie.
Okay, Brenda?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brant?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Mayor Acerson?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Patient, and Layton is a yes as well. Look like Jamie dropped off.
It looks like he's back on now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a yes.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item is a financial update, and we've probably covered that to some extent, but Laurie, do you have anything additional you'd like to add?
Over month,
Sorry, I think I had you muted. Start that over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The average recurring revenue system-wide for that's Utopia and UIA is about $22,500 per month. UIA, we're averaging a $30,000 increase in month-over-month revenue since July. Utopia is staying fairly flat. We do have a healthy fund balance in UIA. We have enough that we'll be able to fund some of the plant expansion for the network when the bond proceeds are exhausted in March of 2021, enough to get us to the summer of 2021 before we need to issue another bond, at which point we will reimburse ourselves for any construction costs. We recently transferred some funds over to Morton Investment Advisors. We believe that they can do a little better for us than what the PTIF is doing. I wanted to mention that all of our city-specific bond projects are on target to make the required debt service after the cap-I period is over. Layton has payments. The first interest-only payment is due in October of 2020. Those monthly installments begin in July of 2020, and they're in a very good position to begin making those debt service payments.
That's music to my ears.
Yes. We in accounting are currently working to break out budgets for each department and change the way we are accounting for city-specific projects. This does require our staff to learn new GL account numbers, so they're all very willing to jump in and help improve our transparency. The Finance Committee met. We wanted to kind of brainstorm on ways to get money from UIA over to Utopia to start reducing the note payable to cities in Utopia. They asked me to work on long-term projections so that we have a better idea of the timing and the amount of funds that will be available for distribution. We have talked to, the last thing I want to mention is we have talked to a grant writer. We believe there may be some opportunities out there for grants that we haven't been able to go after. So we are planning to contract with her to have her scour the market and see what might be out there in available funds. I did attach the revenue charts. I'm not able to get my screen sharing working, but Roger, if you want to pull those up, we have the...
Did you email them to me?
They are in the packet.
They're in the packet. This is the UIA packet. That's the Clearfield contracts. You know, we have these packets of hundreds of pages. You know what page it is?
I believe it's at the very, maybe at the very.
Pretty close to the very end.
There it is.
There we go. Oh, very, very last page.
Okay, of course.
Oh, do you want to do the combined?
Yes. So the combined revenue shows that we are bringing in a little over $2 million monthly in revenue. The green line, as you know, represents total revenue from UIA and Utopia. This is gross revenue.
It's a pretty exciting milestone, actually. We're to see that go over 2 million.
Yeah. You can see the uptick. These are numbers through February. March was also very good. So you can definitely see the uptick on the UIA side. On the second graph, this is the UIA revenue versus bond obligation, monthly recurring revenue. Again, this is gross revenue. Gross revenue for February is almost $1.5 million. And the little hash marks along the side represent the debt service on the different bond issuances. The red line represents the bonds where we are currently making principal payments and debt and interest payments out of our funds. So there's no cap-I on those. The rest of them, the dotted lines, debt service is currently being made from capitalized interest. You have the Layton bond with the Morgan bond in blue. Payson bond in orange, the West Point bond in purple, and then the UIA general bond, the 2019 series, up here in orange. When we add Clearfield to that, their monthly debt service will be paid by CAPI for quite a while. It'll add about $60,000 per month. So it will take us just a little bit closer to the $1.2 million mark. But still, we have significant headroom between our monthly recurring revenue and our cumulative debt service payment.
Yeah, so even if all the debt service of all of these bonds hit, and we were having to pay those, we still have pretty good headroom.
Yes.
But in fact, we have years on some of them and shorter sum of time on the others. As long as we continue that revenue growth, we're in a really, really great position.
Do you have any questions on the financial report?
Roger, do you see anything from a technology perspective or a competitive environment perspective on the horizon that may affect us? Any new technologies coming out or advances that would lead us to believe there's any risk of this growth not continuing?
Yeah, every change, every advance really favors us. We get asked all the time, especially as we're talking to these new projects, and every time we go talk to bond rating agencies, they beat us up everywhere they can, and they ask us about satellite broadband, and satellite broadband isn't a threat at all. And I could talk about that for an hour. Wireless, there are some really interesting fixed wireless options out there that get powered by 5G. They still don't meet the growing demand of consumer demand. So 5G is great for mobile devices. In fact, we actually like working with them because sometimes we can sell some connectivity for them to power that. But at the same time, it's not sufficient to meet the need for a primary service in a home. They don't have enough capacity in their wireless networks to handle an entire neighborhood like you can with individual fiber connections to each house. So all of these things we see out there, whether it's the usage where everybody's going to streaming media and cutting the cord, and obviously this working remotely and teleeducation, telehealth, all of this is huge for us, although we don't expect the spike like we have seen because of coronavirus. The trend towards those technologies is very, very strong. So as we see what people are doing by choice, and then we see what people are being pushed into from circumstances like this virus, but then even just the general advances in technology, really everything favors more fiber adoption. And so it's been good for us. We don't see any reason to believe we won't continue to grow in take rate and demand. If there's anything that's been consistent with this, is that like this has been more consistent. The demand for fiber has been more consistent than just about anything else. And what I mean by that is we also get asked, what about this? What if we're about to go into a major recession, right? That's a concern that's come up. Now we can go back and look at our subscriber rates. We didn't decrease in subscribers during the last recession. We just saw increase. In fact, in some ways it's beneficial because people look at their bills more and scrutinize those bills and realize they're paying too much for Comcast or something like that, and may make the decision to flip over, because we are, even though it's a premium level service, it's not a premium price, it's still a good value. So it's stable during good economic times, it's stable and strong during bad economic times. All of the technology trends favor it. Usage patterns, I don't have any reason to believe that we would see this slow down from January, February levels. We may go down a little bit from this 1,100 a month. That was a surprise to everybody, and we're trending that way this month, aren't we, Kim? We have heard.
I have to unmute myself for a second. We're trending pretty high. I don't think we're going to trend quite at 1,100. I'm saying we would probably be in about the 700 to 800 range for this month. I know we had last Monday was our third highest sales day with over 70 sales. So yeah, we're still doing a lot.
Yeah, so, yeah, demand is good.
Thank you. On a related note, I recognize I'm asking too many questions today, and I got this secondhand, so I'm not sure if it's accurate or not, is somebody last week mentioned to me that, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, that the state, some agency or arm of the state, as part of their coronavirus response and update, had put out a list of providers, broadband providers that people could access for telework services, telecommute services, teleeducation, et cetera, and that the state had went through and put together this long list, and it did not include Utopia, which to me, if was true, is just completely nonsensical and baffling. But are any of you there aware of that the state put out a list of where people could go for services and did not include us? Or is that a...
Yeah, there was a page on the state website, and it omitted us. There's been other things. I know the Governor's Office of Economic Development has a broadband outreach center, and they were looking for responses and programs being offered by the various providers out there, and we were included on that one. So it's just, yeah, I don't know why we got omitted on the other. Probably something we need to look into to make sure we're on the radar of the state a little bit better. But yeah, certainly we are a good option. You know, the people signing up for services is obviously an indicator that people prefer fiber in this situation. But you know, other resources that are out there, obviously, as we work with the cities themselves to light up Wi-Fi in parks and city facilities and places where we can, you know, that's a resource that people can fall back on if they don't have broadband at home and they need to get that kid and you know, access on a laptop in a car or something like that. You know, that's some of the things that are out there and available. Unfortunately, we wish we could expedite and just hurry and build out a bunch of cities as a result, but fiber does take quite a bit of time, and you know, it's not something we can put fiber in place in time for. We can do installations, but the combination of trying to accommodate the increased demand and keep up with that, as well as using those Wi-Fi resources across the cities, I think is really where our response has been to the coronavirus.
Okay. Any other questions of the board or from the board?
Yeah, I have one more question if I could, and it may have already been answered because I came in late. I know from our previous meetings, there was a projection on the OpEx payment back to the cities, the time frame when that would be completely done. Are we still on track for that, or how are we in that area?
So we issued out letters and mailed checks. So if your city hasn't seen it, we probably need to talk. Well, Linden was in a different situation though. So
right.
But as far as doing that this fiscal year, we did it. The plan and the budget for next year is to continue the increase of that. So we were growing that for the cities where we needed to pay it back. And then the schedule of that has it all paid out in 3 years, I think.
By 2023.
By 2023.
2023.
And then at that point, you know, we continue to budget for increases out of UIA, but then it's going to all UIA city members. And it kicks in at different times for each city, depending on how much they paid towards the OpEx. So there's a lot of partials and what percentage of that they did pay.
Mayor Aitchison, I can send you the presentation that shows when Linden can expect to receive funds.
Okay, I knew that we were kind of a second tier on that because of the timing and the amounts that we had paid. But I was just looking long term. All cities that did that as a backstop or help, by 2023, everyone will be made whole. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for sending that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Roger, do you have anything to add on as far as the network update?
On the network update, usually I'll jump in and go into the details of subscriber growth, but we've got the next meeting coming up. But I did send out the reports, monthly report to all board members, so hopefully you all saw that. I should have a report collectively of the cities as well as individual city reports. And it shows you how strong the growth has been in your city, what build has happened in your city, that's the availability of addresses, what that represents. And as you see from the numbers, they don't lie, the demand is up, subscribers are coming on at record paces, and things are looking very good. Any questions about that report or anything you'd like to see differently? We're trying to be a lot more transparent with all of that data that we have and how things are going. Hopefully you guys enjoy that report. We'll keep doing that each month.
Thank you, Roger. Board members, are there any other items that any of you would like to have discussed or put on an upcoming agenda to discuss? Okay, hearing none. Well, thank you. I think we're ready to adjourn then. Anything else you have, Roger?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again to everyone for your time today. Be safe. We appreciate you and individually, and appreciate the support that your cities render as well. Things are going well, and it doesn't happen by chance. So also thank you to the staff. You guys and gals do a great job, and are in large measure the reason for the success of the organization. So we appreciate you and wish you the best as well.
Thank you.
We'll just stand adjourned. I don't think we need a vote for that. We'll let you get to the next meeting. So everybody have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.